So I finally read Lloyd Elmore Jr.'s Malinville, which is the first book of his series. And as I had promised him, I told him I was going to wait till Halloween, and like my romantic candle, by the way. And so we'll talk about that. I got a few other things to talk about. I had Cody Engdahl Day, and that was JT's idea. I mean, I don't think we actually call it that, but that's what he referred to it as, at the Lotz House Museum. That went very well. We'll talk about that, and I'll talk a little bit about uh, some of the some of the things I like to do when I do book signings that kind of help, especially if you're an author. Uh, you might excuse me, by the way. Seem to have sprung a leak here, and I have another. I have a 3-day event next weekend, so there's a lot going on. Let's get started. First of all, here's my unofficial intro to my videos here. My name is Cody C. Engdahl. I am the author of 4 novels, which are available on Amazon, and 2 nonfiction works. And I am about to write. Oh, hang on a second. Let me make sure. I'm in a text conversation with my girlfriend, and I'm getting close to finishing my 5th novel, at least the rough draft, and we'll talk a little bit about that. So let's get right into it. And I see we have some people watching. Lloyd, if you're one of them, I'm going to welcome you onto the show. If you want to come on and talk, we're going to talk presently about your book. In fact, look at that. Let me just make sure that it is up so I can see. I'll have to add it to the theater. Okay, look. Oh, it was there. There we go. Malinville. So this is Lloyd Elmore Jr.'s the first novel of his trilogy, or actually, it's not a trilogy. There's 2 books up right now, and I think he's going to be writing a very long series, which I'm very excited about. So Lloyd, Lloyd is a little bit of a I wouldn't say a project for me. Lloyd, I guess what I'll say is I take great pride in Lloyd, because Lloyd was someone who he actually knew me from being a Channel 4 watcher when I was reporting there. And after I left the station, he Lloyd had bought my first book and came out to one of my performances, just where I was just playing fiddle somewhere. I actually was at Mansker Station, and wanted me to sign it. And I was like, wow, I think that's the first time anybody had just come up to me out of the blue and said, I have your book. I want you to sign it. So I did. And then I got to know Lloyd, and and found out that he was also an author. And that's my girlfriend saying good luck with my, my she ignores me all day. And then she decides to strike up conversations as soon as I decide to go live or do anything other than, be bored and lonely and pining for her. So I come to find out that Lloyd is a writer himself. And what I found out about him was that he had been writing all his life. Lloyd is around my age, and he had quite a bit of piles and piles of short stories and novels and all sorts of things that he just hadn't gotten around to trying to get published. And we became friends. We interacted on social media, and finally, it just hit me. I'm like, Lloyd just needs to get started. And so I got a hold of him, or I sent him a message, and I said, look, we're going to publish your first book, which was the space between. I never say it right. And Lloyd, I'm so sorry. I can never get your book right. It's like it's so easy, but for some reason it's challenging to me. It's the spaces between space, or the space between spaces, something like that. It's a collection of short stories mixed of horror, fantasy, science fiction. We got a copy of it. It's good. Laura and I both read it. In fact, I remember Laura reading it and just shaking her head, going, "My God, this book!" I mean, she was shaking her head not because she didn't approve it; it was uh, because she was, stunned at how good it was, and how the book was able to, kind of take her by surprise. Which is, especially in that genre, it's great to have, something that the spaces between the spaces. So there's an S at the end of both of those. I'm going to try to remember that because I can never get it right. It's just because I'm stupid. And so anyway, I said to him, I'm like, you know what? Enough whining about someday you're going to do it. We're going to do it. I want you to hire an editor or edit your book, get it formatted, and then I'm going to come over your house and you're going to make me coffee and we are going to get your book published through KDP. And so he did, and we went over there, and his wife, Mindy, was a lovely lady. She made a beautiful cake. So we had cake and coffee, and we spent several hours together getting his book formatted correctly and getting it up online. And he went out and got author copies. I think he did a signing. And once I kind of pushed his snowball off the hill, that snowball has been running ever since. I mean, look, space between the spaces, 26. Let's see. Wow, 4.8 rating out of 26. That's pretty damn good. He followed it up. There's always some asshole, just so you know. And sure enough, like this 1-star review, yeah, coward, fucking coward. 1-star review, but you ain't gonna tell us why. And I'm always very suspect. If you're gonna give someone a 1-star review, I think you owe it to that person because you're obviously, ruining, trying to hurt that person, trying to ruin their chances of selling books and put a dent in their, their ability to make a living. Maybe it is a 1-star review. Maybe Lloyd sucks. Maybe the book, well, I can tell you right now he doesn't, and the book is certainly not a 1-star book. But if you're going to do that, then I think you owe an explanation why, and tell us. And maybe you're right. Maybe like, yeah, this book sucks. I don't like the way he writes. I think I don't know, whatever your complaint could be. If you're going to give us a 1-star review, I think you owe it to not only the author, but people looking at the reviews to say, oh, it's got a 1-star review. I wonder why. Is there something I should know before I buy it? I'm just saying. I heard someone once say that all the 1-star reviews and all the 5-star reviews should be ignored because very few books are either a 1-star book or a 5-star book. Most books are a 2-star book or a 4-star book. I think there's some truth to that. I will admit that for nefarious reasons, I wouldn't say nefarious, but I will admit that basically I'm in support of other authors. So if I read your book and it's good enough, I'm going to give it 5 stars. And it's because of these assholes. I mean, honestly, if it really is a 1-star review and you got a good reason for that, by all means. But I think I find it rather suspect if you give someone 1 star on their book and you don't say why. I think that's kind of cowardly. So my 5-star reviews of books that may not truly be 5 stars, I think that kind of counteracts it. I know how much that's important as an author myself. We're trying to keep I think you want to be. I mean, first of all, a 3-star, and I've gotten some of my best reviews have been 3 stars that said really great things about the book. 3 stars does not, anything less than 5 stars is not a bad book. 3 stars is a good book. I would say 3 stars is a good book. 4 stars is a great book. 5 stars is like it's the best book ever. Like an amazing, oh my God. I think that's how it, and then 2 stars is like, yeah, I mean, it was okay, but it had problems. And then 1 stars is I absolutely hated it. It literally insulted my mother. So anyway, I get so far off track. Let's get back on track here. Okay. So I helped him get this book up and running. Since then, he has had no problem running on his own. He's actually lapped me as far as published books. Now, I will say, in my defense, that a lot of this stuff he had already written. And he's actually a very prolific writer. He's always talking about how he's, hey, I just, wrote 26,000 words today before noon. Good day for me. Okay, Lloyd, take it easy. So he's got, let's see here, two sets of short stories. I read this one. I really enjoyed it. I've not read this one. He's got a series of memoirs. This is his blog, in which he has taken his blog and then published it as 3 books. And then he's got the Malinville, what do you call it? Series, which starts with Malinville. And that's the first book, and that's the one we're going to talk about right now. And then Remnants, which is the part 2. And then I'm aware of what's coming next. I know he's got a book called, in the Malinville series, he's got a book called, what was it? Jacob's Hole? No, I can't think of it. There's the Little Ronin, and there's 2 other ones that I've heard him talk about, and I can't quite recall the names. And I don't think the Little Ronin is part 3. I think the Little Ronin is a side story that he's going to insert in there. So this is what we're going to do. It's really hard to do a book review without some spoilers, or revealing at least some things about the plot. So what we're going to do is I'm going to talk very general about it, and then I will do semi-spoilers. And I'm talking like spoilers that you might find out by reading the back of the description of the book, okay? And the reason why I'm making that, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm sorry, I'm tired. That distinction is that Laura is very particular about spoilers. She doesn't want. Laura wants to pick up a book, not read the description, not read the back cover or the sleeve, not even read like the titles of the content. She wants to be surprised. She just wants to walk into a book or a movie and have no idea what's going to happen, and just have it all wash over her, which I think is great. Now, Laura also read the book, and we both enjoyed it quite a bit, and we talked about it, and it was fun. We had a little 2-person book club reading his book. So let's start with this. Let's start with my actual review. And when I wrote my review, I wanted to make sure that I was not spoiling it for anybody. So we're gonna go to that. I gave him a 5-star review. Lloyd has done the same for me many times over, and has written very nice reviews for me, and I'm very grateful for that. So here's what he's got to say, or here's what I got to say. All right, here we go. And this is true. I mean this wholeheartedly. I really enjoyed this. It gave me all the nostalgia of an 80s sci-fi fantasy flick and my boyish adolescent fantasies. Imagine in your darkest hour discovering that you were never alone, but instead surrounded by friends and the love of your life, friendship, and I'm putting in things that are not there. Okay, let me start over again. Imagine in your darkest hour discovering that you were never alone, but instead surrounded by friends and the love of your life, friendship, and a love you'd be willing to fight for. Malinville is great escapist fun and a great start to what promises to be a wonderful series. Absolutely. 5 stars. So Lloyd, okay, a couple things. I know Lloyd personally, and I will say I don't have an extremely close relationship with him, but I know Lloyd. We are friends. We talk. I know that Lloyd is a very nostalgic person. It's in his writing. It's in his blog. He's a very emotional person. And I will say that Laura and I, Lloyd, don't get mad. Laura and I just, whenever we were talking about the main character, we kept calling him Lloyd instead of Felix, because I pretty much saw Lloyd as the main character the whole time. It felt like him. Um, One of the things that Lloyd has done, and it's something I believe in with my own writing, is that we're both writing books for adults. Although I think Malinville, I do think that Malinville could be reworked as a young adult, a YA novel. I think there'd be a great way to do that. Um, but even though, like myself, I write about war and there's sex, violence, swearing, all that kind of stuff, I'm writing for that kind of adolescent wonderment and romantic desire for adventure and all that. And war's dire, and I'm very realistic with my depictions, but at the same time I'm also writing to that boyish fantasy that I had. I'm writing the book that I wanted to read when I was like 12 to 16 years old, even though it's for adults. And I feel like that's what's going on with Lloyd too. Lloyd is a big fan of. Lloyd's kind of a fanboy. He's a fan. He's a fan of like Marvel comic movies and Star Wars and classic television. I guess classic for us, like things that Lloyd and I would have been watching in the growing up in the 70s and the 80s. And you can feel that in his writing, and this story feels like an 80s movie, like Gremlins, or a sci-fi adventure story from the 80s. It has that feel. Even the bad guy feels like an 80s bad guy, and I mean that in a good way. It's like a very nostalgic, and I think if you were around then or even grew up watching those films, you'll feel that. I feel like the movie Mannequin or something like that would be akin to this this book, in which he calls it science fiction or fantasy. I think, just because I've been studying this, a lot of the marketing and everything, I think actually the correct genre for Malinville would be what they call urban fantasy. So it's not high fantasy like the Lord of the Rings. It's urban fantasy usually takes place in our world, and it usually takes place in a town or in a city, or in a place where we live in a contemporary world, but there's some kind of hidden fantasy world happening within the world that we live in. So it's not people flying on dragons with swords, shooting lightning bolts at each other. It's street level fantasy. It's contemporary. It's like, what if hidden beneath the surface of your normal life, there was this wonderful world that existed, filled with new friends, romance, and adventure. And that's what this book is about. And before we go into any kind of it's still being very general, the main character is someone who's down and out. He's Felix is the name of the character. He's not having a really good time with his life. He's not suicidal, but he's kind of done. And then he discovers something, because of something that he's getting ready to do. He discovers something that has always been there all his life that he had never seen before. And that becomes a new world and purpose for him, and even new love. And of course, there's a bad guy who, and a bad corporation, who are there to hurt this new thing that he has now become, that he has now associated himself with. So let's here is your warning for spoilers. And I'm not going to spoil it. Like, I'm not going to tell you how it ends or anything like that, but I'm going to tell you more about what it's about without truly spoiling the book. But if you want to go on, if you're Laura and you want to read this without any preconception of what it's about, this is the time to jump off. Okay, so what this book is about: the guy Felix, he's heartbroken. His wife has left him. Just she decided that she never really loved him, and she wants to have a wild and crazy life instead. And I knew a guy who went through this, who had a perfect little life, perfect little wife with kids, and they were just the fun couple we all hung out with. And one day she said, "You know what? I'm bored with you. I never really wanted to be married with you. I want to go live a wild life, and be night clubbing and do all the things I never got to do because I married you too soon." And I remember it broke his heart. And so this is Felix. Felix finds out that, I'll back this up. It starts off with people escaping, like 30 years prior, people escaping a burning laboratory. And then you come to present times. He finds out that there is a colony of tiny people living in the woods of his house, and one of which is a beautiful woman. She's 6 inches tall, but she's like the perfect girl of all time. And there's a very much of a secretive NIM, and what's really interesting is that in some ways it's urban fantasy, but in a lot of ways it's science fiction, because Lloyd explains why there are 6-inch people with a more of a scientific explanation, as opposed to, or a science fiction explanation of why there are 6-inch people, and not so much like they're fairies or elves or pixies or something. And anyway, there is this kind of impossible romance in which this big guy falls in love with a tiny little woman. And there is, like, I can imagine being like a 12-year-old boy, like being like, wow, I mean, that would be like, I mean, it's kind of a weird thing, but I could see that, like being in love with this little tiny person, but not knowing how this could possibly work, almost like a little bit of a Romeo and Juliet, in which it's an impossible love that two people from two worlds are trying to figure out how to make it work. Like I said, I feel like there's a thread of the secret of NIM in this. Have you ever seen that movie? I feel like there's that kind of theme to it, that kind of feel. I've heard Lloyd say also that he's referenced, when talking about it, Gulliver's Travels, and I can see that too. So it's really interesting because these little people are also tough. They're archers. They're warriors, and the people who are responsible for their creation are trying to get them back, or at least destroy them as they're moving on to a different phase. And the main character, Felix, inadvertently kind of triggers an event that has now exposed Malinville, this tiny little society that lives in his backyard, to this evil entity, in which now the main character has decided that, his new purpose in life is defending these little people, in this little colony, that have named themselves after his family's name. So it was a lot of fun. There were surprises in it. There's a great showdown in the end, and although I think Lloyd sells it pretty well about like how things kind of work out. It's not super easy, barely an inconvenience. There's explanation for it. There's surprises. I'll tell you this, Lloyd likes the misdirection. In fact, he's got a short story called Mr. So-and-so and the Great Misdirect. He likes, and misdirection is what magicians do. They're showing you something with this hand, but in the other hand is doing something else to fool you. So you think it's going to be this, and it turns out to be this. So there's that. So anyway, I would say this is a fun book. It's it kind of played into my own adolescent fantasies. I think I would call it an urban fantasy, or maybe science fiction, urban fantasy, science fiction. I um, I think it could be an actual good YA book, except for there's some swearing. Outside of the swearing, it's pretty tame. So, some of the violence, I don't know. I mean, with what people see today, like it's nothing's worse than anything you're gonna see in a Marvel film. And Lloyd, one thing about Lloyd is he's a really good guy, and so like Lloyd's own moral code is kind of embedded, especially in the good guy characters. So, anyway, there's that. Lloyd, I hope you like. I hope you're cool with the things I said. Um, and here's once again. Let's get back to this. Um, the one thing I would say is the cover's cool. You can see that I had to really look at this. I never really looked at it very well, but it's a silhouette of a shapely woman. Look at that thigh gap going on there. That's wonderful. And she's looking through a tunnel and she sees a boot. So that's like it. I would I would like to see Mary is the name of the hot little 6-inch woman. I would like to see Mary be the like if you look at a lot of fantasy novels, what they do is they like to put you know this is all right, let's see here. If there's an example. Well, let's do this. Let's go to book 2 because I think there's a picture of somebody did this art and like I want to see this art on the cover. Like I want to see like a very attractive looking Mary on the cover because to me I think she's a great selling point of this whole thing. She's a great character, and I'm trying to open up this sample here, and a lot of times in fantasy books they have like the heroine or the hero like full. Wow, I cannot get this. There we go. Read sample. Okay. I think let's back this up there because I think he's got a picture. Yes. Okay. So look at this. Okay. That is a great picture, right? And I think Lloyd said that wasn't quite how he pictured because someone else did this picture, but he said it's not quite how he imagined her. But this is great, and I would like to have like a full cover with a full color background, with like maybe like purple skies, snow falling, and her like not her silhouette, but this woman just like this standing there with her bow and arrow looking hot and badass and at the same time with an idea that hey she's this little woman but man is she something. I think that would be a great cover, but who am I? Lloyd makes his own decisions, and um I did enjoy the book. So moving on, I do want to say this. I on to a couple other books that I have read or actually listened to. So let's see if I can find. Okay, good. I have been working for this company that has me driving quite a bit. I'm going to leave them in January though because they have me constantly. I spend Monday through Friday for the last 6 weeks living in a hotel, and I almost had to say no to several either fiddle playing gigs or opportunities to do book signings, and I can't do that. I can't be saying no to anybody. So I'm lining some things up, and I'm going to be looking at another way of supplementing my writing income as I work on my stuff. Let's see if I can find what I have just read, and I thought, oh yeah, I've been listening to a lot of audiobooks, and I will tell you that I have, kind of a thing in my head where like an audiobook is kind of cheating, but I realize the value of it. So as an author, I feel like I should always be reading novels and now listening to and do both. Let's see, it's called The Spite House. I really enjoyed this book. And listening to it, I think you should be doing both. You should be reading and listening, because listening, one of the things I do once I write my novel is um, in my editing, at some point in my editing process, I read the thing out loud to myself. And I think that's very important, because sometimes you can, when you're reading it in your head, you're you're making a lot of automatic corrections and you're not catching things. But when you read it out loud, you can really tell if your words are flowing well or not. Like, it may look fine when you read it in your head, but when you read it out loud, it might be clunky. This was a great book. I got this on and it's an audio book. Johnny Compton. I never heard of him. But look at this guy. He's I mean, this I I I, I like, I don't know. This just looks like a guy. I mean, look at this man. This just looks like a guy you want to be friends with. I'll just say that. Johnny Compton. This is a great book. It's it's a classic. Um, uh, I like tropes. We all do as readers, and I realize when it comes to horror, what I like in horror, I'm not into like slashers or monsters or gore, gross out, that kind of stuff. That really doesn't do much for me. I like ghost stories because, like for example, I mean, I know I'm a fool. I know I'm a fool, but like slashers, like like when I watch like Friday the 13th or Halloween, I'd be like, I would just beat that guy's ass. Like I would just fight. Like I wouldn't be running away. And if I knocked that fucker down, man, I would make sure that guy stayed down. And I mean, I'm sure Jason or Michael Myers could easily kill me, but I have that false male pride where I just think I could take anybody else on. I can't fight a ghost, man, and so supernatural is what scares me. Um, and and so I like ghost stories. And I realized too, I don't need a body count. I don't need people constantly dying. I just need creepy things. And so I like ghost stories. I like haunted house. So the Spite House is a creepy haunted house story, much in the same flavor as Shirley Jackson's The Haunting of Hill House. It is, but it's very interesting. Johnny writes like there are all these little mysteries, and there are several supernatural things going on that you get introduced to, that seem unconnected. But all these ribbons, all these little mysteries, like you're not like, for example, it's about a father and his two daughters, and they're on the run, but you don't know why they're on the run. And that slowly, like as you read, it's like a camera lens slowly being turned so that it becomes clearer and clearer. And Johnny does a great job, intimidatingly so. The guy's a great writer. Um, like all these ribbons are being slowly woven, things that didn't seem to make sense or be connected, all are connected as you go deeper and deeper into the novel. The audiobook was great. The guy who did the reading was fabulous and really brought it to life. So if you like ghost stories and haunted house and eerie things, and you like good characters that you care about, man, Spite House. I did not review it on Amazon because I didn't buy it. I got it from the library, but I did review it on good reason. I gave him 5 stars, and I did the same treatment I do with everybody, where I I do the review, I share it on my social media, and I tag them on Twitter. Hang on a second, my chicken's done. Hang on 1 second. I'll be right back. Been cooking my dinner this whole time. I'm just gonna turn off the oven here and let it sit. Keep it on. Okay. So that's that. Also, I another book I've been listening to is it's great. I need to. I'll see if they'll let me put my review on here because I didn't buy it from here, so I don't know if they're gonna let me review it. But let me see if where's the things you were looking at. Product related. Okay. And this just came out this year, and so good for this guy. What am I looking for? Oh yeah, Hyde. Okay, so this is a yeah, here it is. So now I got this book and I'm listening to it, and the style is very different. I think Craig Russell is trying to affect more of a 19th century style of writing, and I gotta say, it's very literary. Like he's got very descriptive, very very poetic, descriptive writing. But I will say that sometimes things like that are very verbose, which is not really the style that we write today. Sometimes I get like my mind will start wandering because he's waxing poetic about something for a while, and then all of a sudden things are happening. I'm like, oh, wait a minute, hang on a second, and I realize that I've been drifting. I do that both with reading and listening, not on everything, of course, but but with something like this where it's very verbose and a lot of descriptive and like I said, waxing poetically, it's sometimes it's easy for your mind to kind of wander. But that's my only. I would say I'm not. I wouldn't say a criticism. I'm just saying maybe it's more me than him. But I don't write that way. I sometimes will do it. Depends on the scene, but I like to be a very direct writer and allow you to put things together in your head more than me. Just give you enough. But this is an interesting concept, and this is the second book I've read that's kind of like this. So it starts off with basically the guy who wrote Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, which was written in like the 1880s, I believe, Stevenson. It's Stevenson who's sick and dying, and he's sitting with his friend who happens to be named Hyde, Mr. Hyde. And Stevenson is like, and his friend Hyde is really sad because his friend's dying and they're very sickly and Stevenson's like, yeah, I got this book, it's haunting me. I know I want to write this thing about the man's nature of being this dual nature of every man, and has got a good side and a bad side. But I'm staring at this blank page. I don't know how to write it. And so Hyde says, well, let me tell you a story. And then it goes into the story. It's written in third person, which if you watch one of my previous lives, I prefer third person narratives to first person, both in writing and reading. And it's interesting because it's not the Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde story. It is I guess what the setup of the book is that this is the fictional inspiration for the novel Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And in it, it's Captain Edward Hyde, who is the chief investigator for the city of Edinburgh police in the late 19th century. Russell doesn't give any actual dates, so you just know that it's sometime in the late. You know this, for example, because at some point one of the characters says we're on the verge of a new century. There is a reference to Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, the man who famously wrote the Sherlock Holmes, because in it there's a surgeon who does an autopsy for Mr. Hyde, and his previous assistant and apprentice has gone off to London or whatever, and that's Arthur Conan Doyle. So there's a lot of references to things like that. But the story is about, like, there are murders happening. It seems to be like The murder seems to be like an occultish, um, ritualistic murder, but the character Hyde is suffering from a form of epilepsy that causes him to black out for sometimes hours at a time, in which he'll wake up or just come conscious in places doing things and not knowing how he got to where he is. And so in the beginning of the book, he comes across a brutal murder, but what troubles him is that he cannot remember, because of one of these blackouts, how he got to where he was and how he got to be so close to be the first person to discover this murder. And so he isn't quite sure whether he himself is the suspect as he's trying to. So there's a little bit of a procedural, a crime procedural, but there's also a lot of like seemingly supernatural and scary stuff. It's a great Halloween book. I'm listening to it. And then as far as reading, I can't tell you who it is. It's a book of short stories, horror short stories that I downloaded from some guy that's been sitting on my Kindle forever. And I've been wanting to read and listen to horror novels while I'm in the Halloween, because I do love horror. And there was a time where I was back in college that I actually wrote horror short stories. I don't have any of them now. But that's, I was going to write horror back then, as all young men probably do. And I've moved on to historical and military fiction. So anyway, those are what I'm reading. Okay, so let's move on to let's see if this works here. So we're sharing this. I'm going to remove that, and then I'm going to let's see here. I wonder if no. Okay, we'll stop sharing screen. Okay, there. Hi, me full screen, and we're going to share this other screen. And all right, so I have a couple book signing things. The one I did yesterday, and the one I'm doing next week. So yesterday, I got invited by the Lotz House Museum to do Cody Engdahl Day. Now, the Lotz House is owned by J.T. Thompson. He was news director at Channel 4, but not while I was there. But he and his wife bought this historic home. It was going to be turned into a taco stand, and they raised the money, and they bought the Lotz House, and they saved it from being turned into a taco stand. It's now a museum, and it's a great thing. It's in Franklin. Basically, this house was front and center during the Battle of Franklin. And it's an amazing story about a German immigrant who came to this country, started a life, and he builds this house because he's a master carpenter, and he's using it as like a model home. And, and of course, he and his family inadvertently get thrown right in the middle of this battle. It's a great story. The Lotz House was the absolute first brick and mortar ever to carry my books there. And you can go today and see my books in the oh, I didn't mean to do that. Okay, at the stage. You can go today and take a tour and buy all my books in the gift shop. And in fact, I don't know if you can see this, but here's me signing books in the gift shop right now. Let's see if this works here. There I am. I don't know if you can hear it. It's not really important, but that's me signing books there. This is a 19th century house. It's great. It's a great tour. So anyway, he invited me to come out there to do a book signing. I was set up outside. I had a table out there, and here we go. Here's somebody who bought Blood for Blood. Just that book. I sold. She bought Rampage on the River. One of the things I like to do is that when I sell a book, they bought this is I have a friend Chris Conley down in Florida, and these are his parents. And they came by. They were visiting Nashville, and they came out to see me while I was doing this. But one of the things I like to do when I do a book signing, I do a show or whatever, is that I ask the people if they'll take a picture with me once they buy the book, and I have them hold the books while we take the picture. And there's several things that I'm doing here. The most obvious thing is what we call social proof. And basically, social proof is you are showing people, your followers on social media, that other people are buying your books. So people who may know me and they see these pictures and like, hey, look, Cody's selling books. Look at all these people buying his books. Maybe I should buy one too. This is a woman who didn't want to. Alicia Cagle Moore, very nice lady. But she wouldn't take a picture with me because she didn't have her makeup on. So I understood. She goes, "I'll wear makeup next time." I'm like, okay, but she bought the whole series as well. There's a guy, Frank Dutch. I'm very proud of this. We talked for a very long time, and then I started talking to him. So he's actually from Holland. And I was telling him about my book about the Austro-Prussian War. And I think he was impressed with my knowledge of European history. And I think that's what made him decide to go ahead and buy. And he bought Blood for Blood. This is pretty interesting. The Lotz House carries all my books. And I can't remember how many they had of each. I think at one point they bought like 6 of each, to sell in their gift shop. There was like 1 or 2 copies left of all of them except for Blood for Blood. Blood for Blood sold out, and it's a big seller there. And part of the reason is that Blood for Blood not only has the Battle of Nashville but the Battle of Franklin, and I included the Lotz House and Johann and Matilda Lotz in the story. They make kind of a I would say kind of all the stuff popping up here. It's never a break. But they make a cameo in Blood for Blood. So, and I make sure that the people, JT's staff, that they know that. So when they talk to people, they can tell them, yeah, this, the house actually appears in this book. And so does Matilda and Johann Lotz. So very interesting. So I did that this weekend. I had a great time, met a lot of people, sold a lot of books. I mean, not only did I sell books to people, but then the Lotz House also bought a bunch from me wholesale. And JT actually said that they're thinking about packaging up my books as and giving a special price that people can buy the whole series as a Christmas gift, which I think is great. I'm all behind that. And I have a great relationship with them. Here's a little bit me set up for Ann. That's my little second Michigan Cavalry guy. I'm going to be back at the Lotz House. Let's see if there's if we can go to the Lotz House itself. I almost spent a lot of time looking for it. I'm going to go back there on November 30th is the anniversary of the Battle of Franklin. And I did this last year, and JT has asked me to come out again this year. What we do is the battle, which is one of the most brutal battles in the Civil War in the Western Theater. It is the bloodiest battle of the Civil War per hour. So obviously Gettysburg, 50,000 plus casualties on both sides. The casualty level wasn't nearly that high, but Gettysburg was 3 days per hour. Franklin was the bloodiest battle of the war. It was an absolute meat grinder, and the rebels attacked a well fortified Federal line right at sunset, and it turned into a brutal hand-to-hand pistols, sabers, bayonets, and rifle butts, like a medieval battle. And so what we do we do several things. First off, the Sunday before the anniversary, I marched with the sons of Union veterans because my great great grandfather fought for the 43rd Illinois during the Civil War. And what we do is we start at, I think it's Pinkerton Park. We start at some park and we march all the way up to where the apex or the of the battle was, the epicenter of the battle. And meanwhile, the sons of Confederate veterans start at Winston Hill and they march down, and then we meet there and shake hands because we're all friends, we all know each other, we're all part of the the Civil War historical culture and society out here. I always play Dixie for them on my fiddle, and they just go nuts because here's a guy dressed up like a Yankee and I'm playing Dixie. I'm like, and it's a great time. It's about brotherhood and fraternity, and there'll be Lincoln will be there. We've had General Grant come out. It's people are in uniforms. It's a wonderful, it's a positive thing. It's a healing thing. So I'll be doing that the Sunday before, and then the actual anniversary on the 30th, I will be at the Lotz house, and I will be in uniform. I'll be in my Union uniform, and they light a candle at sunset for all the men, Union and the women too, the civilians, the rebels, the Federals, all the people who died there. We commemorate them, and I'll play Dixie and the Battle Hymn of the Republic to honor both sides. And it's a very neat and very poignant ceremony. JT's asked me to make sure that I bring copies in case they need to restock, because, like I said, they're going to have. They're going to put together a special deal, a package of at least the trilogy that people can buy as Christmas gifts, which I think I'm all for. And I'd like to see how many books they sell between. I just restocked them, so this will be about over a month from now. So we'll see where they are. So there are those two things. Okay, did I make good on my promises here? Let me see here. Let me check the. See what kind of things did I promise with this live. Thank you for watching, by the way. I want to do this every at least once a week. So we talked about Malinville, we talked about the Lotz house. Okay, then the next thing I'm doing is I will be at there I am. Let's see, go back to the Facebook thing. I will be at Ridgetop, Tennessee, which is just about a 20-minute drive north of Nashville. And there is it's a weekend long thing. It's put on by the city now. It's called Morgan on the Rim. Morgan was a famous, what was he famous for? He was a famous Confederate cavalry officer, and apparently, I don't know, there was something happened up there. But last year I was invited along with some other authors to set up sell our books and sign books, and I did really well. I mean, I went through a lot of books, and they like having me there. I mean, this is what's great. I get invited to a lot of things because I'm a fiddle player, and in return, yeah. So here are some pictures from the last time I was in period garb. I really do avoid wearing my Union uniform because this is the South, and most people are pretty cool about it. But there are some people who are still, very emotionally attached to the war on either side, and so there are people who want to re-adjudicate the war. This is the flyer from last year, and there's a lot of there's a lot of lingering bad feelings because for example, racism and slavery factor greatly in this. Um, there are a lot of Southerners who are resentful because, regardless of the cause or whatever for the war, many federal troops came down and did things like burn people's farms and take their livestock and hang people that they thought were traitors or spies. And war is an ugly thing all the way around. And so I don't want to wear a Confederate uniform because I don't want someone to think I'm a racist. Not that people who do are. They're and I don't want to wear a Union one because there are a lot of Southern people who are find that offensive too. So I try to take the middle road, I guess, and wear something. So this is my period outfit that is not one side or the other. In my books, I mean, we absolutely talk about slavery and the racial issues and all that kind of stuff, but I have villains and heroes and villains on both sides, and I talk more about the human aspect and not adjudicating the war. Okay, I'm digging myself a grave here, so I'm gonna stop talking. But these are pictures from last year. And I also like to vote a lot. Like as you can see, I take pictures with people. I sold more books than that though. Oh yeah, there's the first day. Yeah, and I took this guy's a writer. I gave him some advice about I think he's writing science fiction. But yeah, I did. Look at all these people I sold books to, and see, look at that. This is a great guy. I can't remember. He's one of the organizers. We got Mary Todd and Lincoln, and there's the flyer again. Yeah, and that was me playing some gig with Paul. But anyway, yeah, so that's going to be next weekend. If you're interested in going, I'm pretty bad at, what do you call it? Organize. Hey, there's Laura. Hi, sweet pea. Pretty bad at preparing for these lives. But if you are interested in coming out to this, you can send me a private message and I'll try to send you the information. But it's basically Ridgetop, Tennessee. If you look it up, they'll have it there. And of course, you can reach out to me, and I will I'll give you any information you need. So, okay, we're gonna wrap it up. And some of the things in wrapping this up, I'd like to tell you first of all what I already told you what I'm currently reading. So let's talk about me. Of course, we have the Morgan on the Rim at Ridgetop, Tennessee next weekend. I'll be there Friday through Sunday, so come out and see me. If you've bought a book off Amazon and you'd like to have it signed, bring it out and I'll sign it for you. No problem. Where am I? So I am writing. Oh, the one thing I wanted to say with all that, me walking on eggshells with the American Civil War on both sides, is that one of the nice things about writing about like anything other than the American Civil War is like no German or Austrian is going to be mad at me because of the Prussian prince. I am seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. I am very close to finishing the first draft. I have about a chapter and a half to write, and I'll be done. I'm very excited. I finally have a reprieve after about 6 weeks of nonstop living in hotel rooms Monday through Friday. I am going to Louisville tomorrow. Please don't come and steal my guitars while I'm gone. And I'm coming back on Tuesday, and I'm not going back out until the following Wednesday, where I go to Knoxville, and I'll be in Knoxville for quite some time working. But it's been very hard to keep up with the writing because the job is so demanding. And, I get up at 5 a.m. and I spend about a half hour working on the book, and then I have to hit the road. And then by the time I get back to my hotel room, I'm too brain dead to do anything. But this week, I'm coming back home on Tuesday, and I have all day Wednesday and Thursday, or most of the day. And I think I can get the first draft done. I think I will be done. And once I get that finished, then I start going through my process, and I'm adding a new phase to the process. So what I'm going to do is once I finish with the rough draft, I'm going to read through it. I'll make corrections here and there. There are some things that I've made some notes like, okay, I want to add this somewhere and I want to expand this a little bit more, especially like, you write something in chapter 18 and you're like, oh, I should set that up earlier on in the narrative. So I'm going to be fleshing some things out some more, adding some things, emphasizing some things so that everything kind of makes sense. And then I'm going to start my pattern. So what I do is I go chapter by chapter. I run it through spell checker. Then I read the entire chapter out loud to myself and make corrections as I go. Then I run it through Grammarly and make all the corrections that Grammarly suggests. And then once that's all done, then I go on to the next one. And then I will do the entire novel that, and then I'll be handing it off to my beautiful girlfriend, Laura, who is very smart and very good at attention to detail. And she's going to print it up and take a red pen to it. And she's really good at catching. First of all, she's better at grammar than I am, and better at grammar, spelling, all that kind of stuff. So she catches, and hopefully there won't be too much for her to catch. And she'll go through it with a red pen, and then she'll have it for like a week or two. And then when she's done, I'll get it back and I will make all her changes. And then once I do that, then I send it to my mother, who's also a writer and, commercial producer up in Detroit. Laura says, we'll see. And then my mom will go through it and I'll get her changes. And then once I make her changes, we're going to be ready to publish. And I'm still looking at the beginning of the year. I don't think there's any value of getting it out sooner. I would say that I have dedicated readers and followers who will be buying it for sure. But outside of that, there's not a lot of benefit of getting it out for the holiday season. I have learned from other people saying, and my own experience with my last book. Thank you, Laura. Laura says she can't wait. So like I said, I'm going to be going after some of those gift cards and some of those resolutions to read more in the new year. So I am looking to possibly launch that book on New Year's Day. We'll see. Am I going to do pre-sales? I think so. David Chisholm says not to do it but I think, first of all, when he said that was like 2 years ago, and Amazon has made a lot of changes. And if you're an author out there, I'll tell you, Amazon is on your side. They want you to succeed and they want you to do well. So they don't want things to hurt you. And David Chisholm's argument is once you start pre-sales, that counts towards your ranking. And of course, pre-sales don't do as well as regular sales because not a lot of people want to put money up for something that they're not going to get right away. And so if you don't sell a lot of books in pre-sales, it'll make your rank drop and put you in a hole before you put your book out. I don't think that's really a problem. I will say my pre-sales for Blood, which is the first book I did pre-sales for, I didn't do that great. When I did pre-sales for Mexico My Love, I did a lot better. And hopefully I'll do better this time. So if you are one of my readers and I do a pre-sale, please help me out and pre-order. I think you can only pre-order the Kindle though. So it's only really for Kindle readers. There's not really a pre-sale for the print books. But once it's out, I'll order a box. I know there's some people that always want a copy of my new book signed. If you want a signed copy of any of my books, you can send me a private message and we can arrange it. I do it through like a PayPal and I'll send it to you in the mail. for a small shipping fee. I think like $3. It's basically the same cut price. You get it from Amazon, plus like $3 shipping, because and actually I take a hit on the shipping, but it's worth it to me. So if you want a signed one from me and you want me to send it to you in the mail, we'll do it. We'll talk. Anyway, I got chicken dinner waiting for me and a bed because I'm getting up at 5 a.m. And oh my God, it's already 8:20. Laura, I see you're watching, honey. I love you with all my heart. Can't wait to see you on Wednesday night because we're going to do probably enchiladas. And she's a great. Oh, before we go, I want to do one thing. We're gonna watch. Laura and I did an experiment. So we have a cat. She's not always a cat that cooperates with us very well. But we have seen, okay, you know the phenomenon that that cats like to sit in boxes, right? And I've even seen like pictures and video of like lions sitting in boxes, and tigers. It's really funny. We've also seen where people have taken have taped out a square on the floor, and you do it, and the cat thinks it's a box and sit in it. Right. So it's really funny. And you can just, type in tape box cat and see cats sitting in squares that have been taped out. Our cat is the worst, as Laura says. So here is Laura and I hope you can hear it on your end, but here we go. This is our attempt to get our cat to sit in a tape box.
So we've taped.
Yes, square on the floor.
We've taped a box on the floor. Pico.
I don't think it works that way, though. I think we have to not pay attention, and then she'll come.
Okay. Well, maybe we won't.
Come on, guys. If you're
what do you think?
If you're right,
no.
I'm gonna admit it.
Wow.
Swing and a miss.
So we've taped.
Oh, yeah, it's a.
We've taped a box on the floor.
That video is doing well. I don't know if I can claim that it's gone viral
yet,
but I don't think it works that way.
I don't know.
I think we have to put this down. This is going to repeat ad nauseum. So yeah, the video has been doing pretty well so far. And I'll tell you this: if you're a writer and you're looking to promotion, I was telling Laura this earlier today. Some of my writer friends are really worried about AI. They're like, oh, AI is going to bury us because, the publishers don't need us anymore. They can just tell AI to write a book and they publish. Laura says, FYI, the tape is still there and I keep walking around it. Yeah. I think if you ignore the cat long enough, you'll catch her in it. But, I feel like the truth, whether you're a commercial writer or an independent writer like me, I think the biggest thing is that you have to sell your own brand, right? There are a million people out there writing Civil War or 19th century war novels, or writing Roman novels, or writing Vikings and Anglo-Saxon novels. Sure, there's no end to them, and a lot of them are really good. A lot of them are really good. But there's only one you. And so I'm not worried about being buried by AI, because there's only one Cody C. Engdahl. And no AI is ever going to write the way I do. They just won't. I'm a real person with real lived experience that bleeds through my writing and my observation of the human condition. No AI is ever going to replace me. And so I think what's really important, if you're a writer or whatever you do, you're an artist, you're a musician, whatever it is you do, or even run a business, is that you are the brand, you're the product. And so when you're doing social media marketing, guess what? That's what we're doing here right now. This is exactly what I'm doing. That's why I come here every Sunday, because I'm building, a social media following and promoting my books. So so a couple things that I did this weekend. One was, when I did for example, when I do a signing and I advertise it, I may not get. I actually did get a few people who did come out because they saw my advertisement on social media and came out to see me. And thank you very much. But a lot of times people don't. But that's okay, because what I'm doing is social proof. It's showing you. You may not come out and see me at one of my things, but you're seeing that I'm doing it. It gives me credence. It gives me credibility. And people say, "Oh, look at that." And also, when I sell a book, I take a picture of the people who buy my book. So you see, when I'm at an event and all day long, I'm posting pictures of me standing next to a smiling person who just bought my book. That's social proof. That's showing you that, look, other people are buying my book. Maybe you should buy it too. The second thing that I did was I showed a little bit of my personal life. So Laura shot that video. We thought it was really funny. It's a very human and feline moment. And, you can't, when you're on Facebook or social media in general, everything you post can't be buy my book. It can't just be buy my book. And by the way, did I mention buy my book? You have to, you're a brand. You got to show a little bit of yourself. You got to be a little bit vulnerable, because people will like you. And if they like you, they talk about this in social media marketing. If they know, like, and trust you, they might buy your book. They might not. I'll tell you, I know I got a lot of friends and family who may never read any of my novels, and that's okay with me, man. As long as you're my friend, as long as we can be friends, man, I'm telling you right now, I don't care who you vote for, as long as you vote. I don't care who you sleep with. I don't care who you pray to, man. As long as you're cool with me, I can be cool with you. I love you all. Oh, and Laura's a crazy cat lady, and that is true. I love you, Laura, because I know you're watching, and I love all you. If you are watching this on the rerun, do me a favor, give me a like. It costs you nothing. Give me a subscription. That costs nothing too. It doesn't mean you have to watch everything I post. It just means that when you log on to your subscription page on YouTube, and I've got a new one, you'll see it there. But it helps the algorithm. And leave me a comment below. I will answer it. I don't get a lot of them, so it's not like I'm overwhelmed. But some of the guys I watch have like thousands of comments. Like, I see someone who I like watch and they have like 2,000 comments, I'm not gonna leave a comment, because like he's never gonna read what I got to say anyway. But I'll read what you got to say, because what you got to say is very important to me. I love all you guys. I love you too, Laura. And I'll be back probably next Sunday with another live. In the meantime, keep reading, keep writing, or whatever you're doing. And if you have an author out there that you really like, doesn't matter if it's me or not, give that author a review with as many stars as you're willing to give up, because those reviews and those stars, whether you're a first-time indie author or a big commercial author with a big publisher and a big following, we live and die by those stars and those reviews. Love you guys. See you soon. Have a good night, and stay safe and stay happy.